Welcome to Anatomy of a Monster Stock. This video will be different than the most recent videos. This video is for my buddies John and Tony, who keep asking me, hey, how do I find these monster stocks? So in this video, I will go over my daily process to find stocks to invest in. Overall, it should take about 10 to 15 minutes a day. Before I go over my scanning process, let's take a step back and let's talk about my investment goal. My investment goal is to invest in high-performing growth stocks right before they will make a 50% to 100% plus move in 3 months to 1 year. You may say that's almost impossible, but if you look at my other videos, I show several examples from Reddit, Sezzle, GeneDX, Palantir, and NVIDIA. And I plan on sharing even more videos to show more examples. If you watched my past videos, you know there are 4 things I look for to find growth stocks. The first one is a positive move of at least 5%. The second one's high volume, greater than 150% of the 50-day moving average. Third is high revenue growth. And fourth is high income growth. For number 3 and 4, I usually find this during quarterly earnings reports. To scan for monster stocks, I go to finviz.com. This is a free website that you can use. And the thing I do is I go to Screener. And then from Screener, I go to All on the middle right here, and it shows all the different types of filters. So the first thing I do is I look for performance, and I look for today plus 5%, because one of our first criteria is the stock has to move 5%. And the second thing I do is I look at relative volume, and I put over 1.5 because one of our criteria is volume has to be over 150% of the 50-day moving average. Other things I do is I look for 20-day high. So I want to make sure that the stock is moving appropriately. So I want to make sure it's making a new high. If it doesn't make a new high, then that means it's not ready for a big move. I look for price over $5 because I don't want to look at low value stocks. I want to look at stocks that retail investors or institutional investors will be looking at. I look for average volume over 50K. Same concept. I want to make sure that there's a lot of volume. A lot of people are trading these stocks. And then the last thing I want to do is look at the latest news. So I want to make sure that either today or yesterday there was some big news. So what you'll see is you'll just see 10 stocks here for today. Sometimes it'll be a lot bigger. And you see all these ads because, again, it's free. You could pay for it, but everything I need you can get for free. So you see there are 10 stocks here. So not much to look for. And what I like to do is I like to go to the chart function. So if you go all the way to the middle right here, press the chart function. And actually, I like going through the news function. And what you'll see here is it'll show a brief chart, a few fundamental metrics, and then it'll go through the news. So what I'll quickly do is I'll just look for the news of today, and I will look to see if there were any quarterly earnings releases. So this is INTC, which is Intel. And so I'm going to quickly look through, and it doesn't look like there are any earnings reports. It just talks about potential takeovers. So I'm going to move past that. JD right here says Q4 earnings likely to beat expectations, but it doesn't say it released it. That talks about why JD is surging today. A lot of it has to do with Trump's proposal related to TikTok. So I'm going to pass on that. OZK. So OZK says that they had Q4 earnings and revenues beat estimates. So I'm going to look at that. So I'm going to write that on a piece of paper. OZK is something I'll go back to. Okay, the next one is QRVO. If I'm looking right here, it doesn't really talk about earnings. It talks about an activist taking an increased role. So I'm going to skip that. RIGL, look at the news today, just predicts some analyst predicts a 75% upside. I'm going to skip on that. That's no earnings. SLB, it talks about share repurchase, stock moving higher on Q4 earnings. So it appears that they released earnings today. So I'm going to go ahead and write that down to look at later. And then the next one is SMTC. It just talks about um, potential AI growth based on the NVIDIA partnership. Talks about USB starting coverage, so no earnings, so I'm going to skip that. SSL, today's news is reviving chemical unit and opening path to IPO. So I'm going to skip that. It doesn't talk about earnings. TFC, let's see. Okay, Truist Financial Q4 earnings. Let's see. So it talks about Truist beating quarterly profits. So I'll go ahead and write that down. And then last, I think, is VIK. Uh, there was just an article that came out. So overall, there are three stocks we're going to look at. We're going to look at TFC, SLB, and OZK. So that only took a few minutes. And that's how you quickly go through and see what are potential monster stocks. Then after we do the scan, what I'll look for is I'll look at the technicals and I'll look at the charts and see how the chart is moving. Okay. So the first one, OZK, you could see a big gap up right here based on earnings, but there's a lot of overhead resistance. You see that white line over there, and if you keep going further back, you can see that the stock has a lot of history, and it just has been moving kind of in a long range. So it's not really exciting me right now, but we'll go ahead and take a look at the financials. The next one we'll look at is SLB. You can see this big move up on the right, gap up, but again, a lot of history here. If you kind of just take a look back at the history, it went up from 2020 all the way to 2023, but it's been going down in a recent big. It's been going down from $60 to about $45. So again, I'm not really excited about this one either. TFC, also not that excited, has a lot of history. The high in 2022 was $65, and it recently did gap up, which you could see on the right, but again, not that excited about it. So just to kind of give you an example to show you what we are looking for, we are looking for something with a clean break, not much history, like Reddit. Okay, I know this is a really prime example, but you could see here not much history. There's no overhead here in the history to prevent it from going further. So went IPO in April, did a little bit of sideways movement. Then you see this huge gap up on humongous volume, right? Then from there, it went up 50% in just a few months. Okay, so that's the kind of stock we're looking for. Here's another example, Sezzle, which I also reviewed on a video, and this is the buy point with all the arrows. And you're going to tell me, well, Alan, there's recent history. Yes, there is recent history in April of 2024. But again, Sezzle is a recent IPO, and beyond that, there wasn't much history. So I'm okay if there was a recent IPO, if it's not a totally new high, but you want to see 5% move on huge volume. So something recent, a recent IPO without that much history, I'm okay if it's not making 52-week high. After we looked at the charts, the next thing we look at is the financials. So this software is TradingView. Again, this is another free software. You can upgrade for additional features, but I think the free sections is good enough. So this is SLB, one of the stocks that we looked at. And for all three stocks, we weren't crazy about them, right? The technicals or the charts did not look that good. But let's go ahead and look at the fundamentals. And so the way to do that is download TradingView, open up a chart. This one's SLB. On the bottom, you'll see these E, D, E. D is for dividends, E is for earnings. You click on that and it does a quick overview. And this one, earnings reported at 0.92. The estimate was 0.897. That's probably earnings per share. And the surprise was about 2%. Revenue was 9.28 billion compared to the estimate of 9.18, and it's a surprise of about 1% as well. So we go here, press the button, more SLB financials, and then I like to look at the statements here. So because it's the free version, we won't see several of the prior quarters. So the first thing I like to do is to look at the annual. This is the income statement. There are two things I look for in the income statement. The only thing I look for is how much sales or revenue growth the company have, and then how much net income did the company have. So if I look at revenue on an annual basis, it looks like for 22 and 23 and 24, 22%, 17%, 9% growth. That's not too bad. I'd like to see growing revenue percentage, but it's not bad. And then net income, great 22 and 23, but only 6% growth of net income in 24. So overall, not really exciting me. And then we look here, total revenue year over year growth. Q1 23 was looking good, 29%, 18%, 10%, 14%. So we have percentages between 29% we saw that once, but mostly between the teens, 18, 10, 14, all the way down the last quarter, which is about 3%. So that's not really exciting me. Same thing with net income. If you look at net income, prior quarters, they weren't that bad. Q1 had 83%. Then you kind of fluctuate 7%, 23%, 4%, 14%. The last quarter was negative 1%. So overall, the financials are not wowing me. Okay, I'm going to just show you financials of, let's say, Reddit, and to show you kind of the difference. Okay, so again, you just type in the symbol, Reddit. You're looking for the stock. So I'll go ahead and press that. Then again, we're looking for the E, which is for earnings. It produces quick earnings. So earnings had a surprise of 320%. So the earnings per share reported was 16 cents. Estimate was negative, I guess 7 cents. So overall, that's a great earnings surprise. Revenue was also a surprise. It reported 348. The estimate was 313, and the surprise was around 11%. So when we say estimate, these are the estimates from all the analysts, people in the financial industry who are estimating how much revenue and how much income is Reddit going to state during their quarterly earnings. So again, let's go to more our Reddit financials. So we go to statements here, and we look at total revenue. So see here, we see a growth of, first let's go to annual, not much, they only show about 4 years of financial statements, but you could see, 111% growth. That's great. 37% growth is not bad. And it kind of lowers to 20%. So not that great, at least on an annual basis. But let's look at the quarterly basis in a bit. Net income, it was negative. It's been negative for the past 3 years. So that's not looking good either. But let's look at the quarterly. So quarterly, this is where it shines. You see 13%, 12% in Q4 22, Q1 23, and then you just see it start increasing 20%, and then Q1 24 was 48%. Okay, so that was huge. Then 53% in Q2, and then Q3 is 67%. So you start seeing this revenue momentum starting in 2024. And so that is really exciting. And that is the probably one of the main reasons why you saw 50% growth in a little bit over a few months. Okay, so continued revenue growth. Now let's look at income. This is a tech startup, so you're going to see negative net income, but then you see a big push towards positive net income, net income of $30 million. So that is huge. You can ignore this Q1 2024. You can ignore the negative $575 million. The reason that was so big is it relates to IPO related expenses. It's very expensive to go IPO. And so that's the majority of this dollar amount. That's why that's such horrendous earnings in Q1 24. But what you see in Q3 is you start seeing upward momentum of earnings. I didn't read all the news, so I don't know if they said this will be continued uh, net income on the positive side, but that is something you're looking for. So you really want to see great growth on the revenue side, as well as you want to start seeing um, positive moves towards positive net income. Okay. So overall, this should take anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. We used three software. We used finviz.com, which is a free website. We used TC2000. That's my preferred method for looking at charts. And then we looked at TradingView because I just like how their financials lay out. TradingView is free. TC2000 you do have to pay. It's about $30 a month, I believe, so it's not too much. But TradingView is free, and they do a good job in showing the financials. So if you have any questions, be happy to dive deep into it a little bit more. Please go ahead and leave a comment with any questions. I'll try to address it. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button as well as the subscribe button. Thank you very much. My goal is to help everyone, use stocks as a vehicle to make money. Okay. So till the next time, happy hunting, uh, and thank you for watching Anatomy of a Monster Stock.